Now, all women who live long enough will go through the menopause. Yet for a long time, it was one of those things that we just didn't talk about.
Well, one woman who is bucking that trend is one of the UK's leading nutritionists specialising in women's health. And she's here to talk about the natural ways to cope with the change. We have Dr. Marilyn Glenville with us. Marilyn, you're very welcome to the show.
Great to meet you, Marilyn.
A very simple question to start off, I suppose. What exactly is the menopause?
Well, it's actually, as women, we run out of eggs. So we ovulate every month and we have this store of eggs that actually we're born with as women. And then we get to a certain age where that egg store is depleted, it stops, and therefore we go through this, which we call the change. And then we've got up to 30 to 50 years past the menopause now, which we can live. So it is important for us to have that quality of life as well as the quantity.
Now, the average age for the menopause is early 50s. I think it's about 50.
About 51 would be around the average.
51.
Some women go a bit earlier, some later, but that's about the average.
So a lot of people don't realise that the symptoms they're feeling can be the perimenopause, which can last, which can begin up to 10 years before the menopause.
Yeah, so even in our 40s, this change can happen. Women can stop ovulating, they can still have a period, and then the symptoms then are more the irritability, anxiety, mood changes, and not the hot flushes and night sweats, which can come on later. So women may not even realise that it may be their hormones that are changing, that are giving them these symptoms that make them feel awful, actually.
And years ago, I suppose, women just lived with this.
Yeah,
they got on with life, and that was it. But that shouldn't be the case at all.
No, and it was grin and bear it, really. So, yes, it was, and it wasn't talked about. Like you said, it was often taboo, and women didn't talk about the symptoms they were having. I suppose they felt if they talked about it, they're in the older age category, and you don't want to really be thought of as a menopausal woman. So, you know, it was different those generations ago.
How come some women suffer more than others?
Well, it's interesting because some just sail through the menopause. All that happens is the periods stop and that's it. And others, the symptoms can be really extreme. I've seen women in the clinic where they get up in the middle of the night, drenched with sweat, having to shower, change their clothes. So there are very different extremes of the whole experience going through this transition and out the other side.
Yasmin Laban, a beautiful supermodel, recently spoke out about going through the menopause and saying the most horrendous time that she had, and she was just saying she wanted to speak out about it because she has daughters, and she wanted to kind of tell them what it was like to go through it herself. Now she has that extreme case. Just a question I'm wondering about this: if you've had issues all along with your periods hormonally, are you more likely to have a difficult menopause?
Yes, you are, because you're going through another roller coaster as you go through this stage. And actually, if we had the education and the information to prepare for it, the earlier we did get that right, the easier this transition.
And these roller coasters have knock-on effects, and that's one of the problems, isn't it?
Yes, and it's the symptoms that it gives us. Not only the mood swings, irritability, hot flushes, night sweats, aching joints, and even things like memory and concentration. A lot of women say to me, they go into a room, they can't remember what they went in there for. That's what she says,
Yasmin Laban. She lost her car key, she lost her car, all these things.
Yes, and I think it's also the loss of confidence and self-esteem. That hits a lot of women.
Loads upon loads of questions coming in. Here is one of them. I was just wondering how you know you have started the menopause without being tested. First, is there a test for it?
You can test for it. There is a blood test, but in that perimenopausal stage, the hormones will be going up and down. So it's not set in stone. And really, the only way we know is when the periods stop.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, loads of other things here. Can you please recommend a supplement to help with hair loss? My eyebrows have almost disappeared, as has the hair on my legs and arms. I am concerned in case it will spread. My hair is quite fine normally.
Yeah, so I would suggest she sees a GP, because it could be to do with the thyroid. That can change at the menopause. Our metabolism is not as efficient. It could also be a problem with low iron stores. So she would be worth seeing a GP, but you can put certain nutrients in, like biotin, rutin, things that can be taken as a supplement, could be very helpful for her as well.
Now, if you go to a GP and we talk about HRT, hormone replacement therapy, they may or may not want you to take that. But Marilyn, you're a fan of the natural way to deal with the menopause. You've brought some regular foods here. Let's begin on this side. We see fish. So obviously you're talking about omegas and fish oils and supplements like that if you don't eat enough fish. Very important. Why? Really important.
And the omega-3s that in the oily fish, they're also in the egg yolks as well. For some women, their symptom through the menopause are the painful joints, because estrogen acts as almost almost an anti-inflammatory. So as that hormone goes down, and women talk to me about creaking, they feel like they're having to lubricate their joints in order to get up in the morning. And that's what we get from these oily fish. They're anti-inflammatories, really important, and they make such a difference also in terms of our brain function and memory.
OK, this is your 12-step hormone balancing diet. That's part of this, and these are parts of it there. The eggs?
The eggs, because of the omega-3 in the egg yolk, good source of protein. They're almost like a superfood on their own. Really very beneficial.
And should to be taken on a daily basis or twice or 3 times a week?
You could even do 2 eggs a day, and the research now shows they don't raise cholesterol.
That's right. That has been your research in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And then you've got a kind of a melody of fruit of antioxidants, is it?
Brilliant, yes, antioxidant, and you'd include the vegetables in that. And although our parents used to talk about eating greens, we're now thinking about eating a rainbow. The more variety of the colours, the different antioxidants we get across the fruit and vegetables.
It's a good way to think about it, isn't it? Because you see colours and you see goodness.
And the more colours, the better. Yeah. What do you have beside that there?
So this is hummus, and these are
chickpeas.
Yeah, chickpeas.
Okay.
And they're really important at the menopause. We talk about phytoestrogens, and they actually have a balancing effect on our hormones. So things like chickpeas, lentils, kidney beans, all of those, yes, soya as well. But all of those beans are really useful as we go through this stage.
On the whole issue, we often hear of soya as a natural HRT. What do you feel about that?
Yes, but it doesn't supply estrogen. That's a bit of a myth. It has a balancing effect on hormones. So it's useful for men as well. In those countries where they eat a lot of these phytoestrogens, they have a lower prostate cancer death rate. So they are good for both men and women.
This, along with exercise, you believe, Marilyn, is the way to go?
Yes, and with the exercise, it is for us as women, our biggest risk after this stage will be the risk of osteoporosis, because we've lost those hormones and we have to get in this use it or lose it for our bone density. It's really important.
Now, at the end there, I just want to bring it there. I see you've got some seeds, sunflower seeds, you've got pumpkin seeds. What's so great about those?
Well, again, you've got the essential fats, like the omegas from those as well. You've also got the fibre. They are really useful. They could go on porridge, they could go into a yoghurt, so they're very versatile. And flax seeds especially are also a phytoestrogen, like the chickpeas.
If you're not taking HRT and if you're not managing to get this balance correct, would you recommend supplements, and what type?
Yeah, so I would always suggest a good multivitamin and mineral, because that would give a woman the nutrients like vitamin D3 and calcium for her bones. And also think about putting in the phytoestrogens in a supplement form. Good research on red clover, sage, some of these ones which have been traditional herbs over a long time.
Is there a male version of the menopause?
Well, the one that they think might be happening is called the andropause.
Okay.
So although your hormones may decline, you don't have the same abrupt change that we have. And obviously
it's more gradual.
It's more gradual, but the hormones can get lower. So they talk about men going through an andropause, whereas we're going through a menopause.
Okay, I suppose our hormones are more obviously dropping compared to A question here. I had a hysterectomy and never had any problems until now. It's 14 years since I had the hysterectomy, but now I'm sweating all the time. This woman is 63 years old. Is that unusual?
No, really common. And she's now 13 years past the menopause, and many women think they're still having menopausal symptoms. As they get to that age, and the interesting thing about the menopause is we produce estrogen from 2 other places in our body. We produce it from our fat cells, and that's why the tendency is to get a bit fat around the middle of the body. And we also produce it from our adrenal glands. So if a woman is very stressed, maybe she's not eating properly, her blood sugar's on a roller coaster, she will actually keep having these symptoms even into her 70s, and it's all about getting that stress response under control. It's very common.
Okay, it's very common, so don't fret because it is common. Natural Solutions to Menopause is one of your many books. It's internationally acclaimed. Marilyn Glenville, PhD, there it is. You can get those in bookstores and I'm sure online. And thank you very much for coming in to us. We could have kept you here for another 10, 15 minutes, I'll be honest with you. You'll have to come back.